Welcome back. July 4th marked 42 years since the signing of the Treaty of Chaguaramas that established the CARICOM community and 14 years since the signing of the revised treaty that ushered in the Caribbean Single Market and Economy, the CSME. The CSME unit headquartered in Barbados has embarked on a campaign to engage the region in the realization of the benefits of the CSME, and that includes the free movement of goods, services, skills, capital, and the rights of establishment. The unit has been leading missions comprising youth to various islands, focusing on the ease of the CSME. The mission was mounted here recently with Philip McLaurin, the Deputy Program Manager, leading that delegation. In this feature, we hear from Mr. McLaurin on the benefits of the CSME and the impressions of the participating youth.
Goods, of course, has a lot to do with the whole aspect of how you move goods produced within the community to other member states. Things like the CET as a common measure for tariffication at the border, so which means that goods produced within the community, once they qualify, then you can move them to another member state, common tariffs across the border once you get into the any member state. Services is another regime as well. Movement of skills is another regime. Then it means that there are 10 groups now that can move according to the decisions taken by the head in the treaty and after the implementation of the treaty or the sign of the treaty in 2001. And the 10 categories are listed. Once you qualify, then you would not require to apply for a work permit, but work permits then will be replaced with what we call a skills certificate. That's what nationals would need to move to work in other member states. And then you have the movement of capital. If you want to establish business presence in another country or invest in another country, then you, of course, facilitate the movement of your capital, money for investment in another member state. As well as another area that we are looking at is, for example, the right of establishment. You want to move into another member state to establish a commercial presence, and therefore it would the regime creates the platform or the foundation for member states to or for nationals of member states to move and invest and have a commercial presence in other member states within the community. The idea of this this mission really is more or less the students moving to have a better understanding of the CSME is an opportunity for tertiary level students to go in another member state to really see at least the 5 regimes at work, how it is working in St. Lucia for the Dominican students, how is CSME in real terms working the way it's supposed to, what is in place, what are the challenges of implementing the obligations under the treaty with respect to each individual member state. So they have an opportunity to visit a different number of different agencies, organizations, to have an idea of how they in turn using the opportunities accorded under the treaty for them to take advantage.
When you were chosen as part of this group to visit St. Lucia, part of this project, at the time, did you know anything about the CSME? Did you know what they were talking about when they said they wanted you to engage in this exercise?
Yes, actually, I knew I had a very broad knowledge of the CSMA because I regularly follow news. I have a keen interest in media, so I've always been following as well. I have a keen interest in knowing about my regional integration and everything that, you know, forms part of it. So I had been, you know, following up and seeing different articles, especially when our government news website posted about the new implementation where Dominicans could move to countries like St. Lucia and live and work without, you know, having any complications. It really ignited a spark, and ever since I've been really interested in it. And then when I was asked to accompany the students on this trip as well, I felt like see how things fall in place very nicely, because I mean I just got so much of an interest in that, and I'm going to get the opportunity to broaden my knowledge about it. So I jumped at the opportunity, and I'm very grateful for it, because I think I don't think I would have learned as much from my own research that I have learned here. I have had engagements with my peers and speaking to them about the CSME, letting them know that, you know, job opportunities are available outside of their own country. So when they graduate from college and, you know, it's a struggle to find a job back home, we always have the option of traveling abroad and, you know, exploring our options.
The whole idea is to ensure that nationals benefit from the CSME. You talk about movement of skills, that is people. You talk about rights of establishment, it is about people. When you invest and create employment generation, employment creation, and so on, it's about people. You talk about free movement of services. People move to provide services. You talk about the free movement of goods. It's about people because people trade. And as you trade so that people can buy goods and have access to goods and services. Then there are other areas with respect to the integration of the further integration of the market regulatory system. For example, you have all these regimes, but to strengthen the market. For example, competition law and policy, consumer protection. It's really and truly about people. So all that is being done. There are other things that are happening right now, especially with respect to Article 239 of the revised treaty. There are some areas that are in the process of development, because when the treaty was signed in 2001, there are at least 5 areas in Article 239 that were not fully developed. In fact, they call it the built-in agenda, developing a protocol for government procurement. So it means, therefore, that procurement of goods, services, and works within the community, you're now going to broaden the scope. You're opening the market for procurement for CARICOM nationals, the bidders, the contractors, and so on. That is work in progress. Electronic commerce is another area of concentration, whereby you want to develop virtual electronic systems. You have many of them out in the world, the eBays, the Amazon, the Alibabas, and so on. You want to develop that kind of, you establish that kind of framework so that even CARICOM nationals and businesses can develop along those lines. Rights contingent upon establishment. Once, if you move, then you can move with your family and so on. But the fact is that they need to have access to education and health care and so on. But you need to ensure that the environment is created, the regimes are in place to allow that to happen. So really and truly, work in progress, but is really people-centered, people-oriented, about the people.
Yes, these policies in turn are working. However, there are many challenges that come with these policies, such as getting harmonization in each of the Caribbean islands, whereby we see some differences across the board with Antigua, St. Lucia, Dominica, and to get the entire Caribbean region to work together, basically, so that we form that entire integrated region that we're looking for with CSME.
When you spoke with the coalition, what were their concerns?
Coalition. The coalition gave us not really concerns, but more the benefits of joining the services industries together. By services industries coming together, they have the ability to basically lobby with the government for the interests of services around the region. So, as they say, there are strength in numbers, and when we stand together and united, we have strength and power. So what the coalition was basically telling us was that working together would help basically to enhance the service industry. And also with the free movement of services, we can see that services or businesses throughout the region providing services can move easily in turn. So that would benefit the CSME. To architects in Trinidad and St. Lucia. Now, coming to St. Lucia, Trinidadian architects can move freely. Now, they can establish and work here. But architects from St. Lucia cannot enter as easily into Trinidad. And so that was something that they really couldn't see how it was working together. It wasn't harmonized in the sense that both countries we were on equal playing fields.
I must say, before I came to St. Lucia, I was nowhere near as informed as I currently am. As Carla previously stated, not many students, not many people on the whole, including adults, follow the news and what's taking place in and out of the region, and I am one of those. But after this trip, I've come to understand that, you know, you need to understand and know what is happening in your country and what is happening outside of your country. The trip has shown me so many things. For example, job opportunities. I never knew it could be so easy to go from Dominica to other country to get a job. I never knew you could move your, for example, if you want to establish a business in another country, I never knew you could do this so easily. So the trip has really taught me how CSME is, and the OECS actually, are both trying to benefit the Caribbean on a whole, not just one country, two countries, but to gather them together and to form one unity to help not only the marketing and the economics of the Caribbean, but also to form a kind of a bond between them.
So obviously the message is not getting through from what you're saying through the news. How does the CSME unit now communicate that good news to people like yourself and the general public, as you said?
Well, I think, for example, the program that they're doing here is a very good program because the youth, we are the ones who are going to end up bringing up the CSME. We're going to either have to fix up the mess someone said, or, how do you phrase it? We're going to either have to deal with the positive or deal with the negative to that extent. So I think by having us come to this program and having other students from different countries go to other countries, you get a message across to the youth, and the youth have an influence on one another. So when we go back to our country, we can speak to the youth in our schools, in our churches, in our general communities, and just enlighten them. They'll more listen to us as their peers rather than go listen to the news and try and understand what is happening.
Sometimes it seems like it's impossible to some people, but I think if we just join together as one Caribbean region, then it will happen. And as I mentioned it earlier, it's a work in progress. So if we just have to give it some time. It's not something that can happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. We just have to give it some time, and that is exactly what I came looking forward to. And I can confidently say that the future is very bright for CSME, judging from the various information I've received from the officials and different people, the ambassador for OECS and CARICOM, the OECS secretariat, and various owners of different businesses in the service industry and so on. Judging from that, I believe that the future is very bright for CSME.